Episode 50. Episode 50. F-I-F-T-Y, Paul. Are we making a big deal out of this, or is episode 50 just like any other episode?
It's the Big Fitty episode, right? Are we making a big deal?
What?
The Big Fitty?
What
50 Cent?
Man.
God.
Really?
Yeah, let's not go there. Yes, it is 50. 50. We should make a bit of a big deal about this because I'd say it is a significant milestone. Let's keep in mind that we are a couple of amateur guys who have no broadcasting experience, have never really...
I object to that. We're not amateurs.
Well, not now, but you were when you started the very first episode. And I should point
I once heard that if you know more than the average person about something, you are a professional. Do you believe that?
I think professional might be a bit of a stretch, but yes, I can understand knowing more than the average person about podcasts. I view this as something that we should be proud of because the average person really wouldn't think to do podcasts. And I give you full credit. The fact that you brought me into the loop, as our listeners, well, those long-standing listeners would know that I believe it was the first 18 episodes, you had Simon as your co-host. And I believe I was brought in and around the 20th episode. And it's been a year now for me. Seems a bit surreal that we've been doing this for over a year now, which is amazing. And it's been an awesome experience for me. And I give myself a pat on the back for doing this and showing the commitment to you. And I've enjoyed working with you doing these podcasts. It's been a lot of fun. We've tackled some really interesting and thought-provoking topics and discussions. I've always enjoyed it when we have additional people that have taken part in our discussions. Mike and Ed have
had a cast of characters.
Yeah, a cast of characters. Sure. So anytime you get a lot of differing opinions, a lot of different voices on board, it's always been a lot of fun. And it's also been a really good way for us to stay in contact. As we all know, we've been in varying levels of quarantine and lockdown over this last year. And we haven't necessarily had that luxury of meeting face-to-face or doing something as simple as meeting up at a pub for having a beer. There's been a lot of limitations on that. So having these usually weekly discussions, and obviously the discussions that occurred throughout the week talking about our topics and ideas and feedback, it's been great. It's been a really good method to stay in contact and to be sociable, because unfortunately that's sort of has been impacted with COVID, despite best efforts. I'm sure many people are in the same boat where they wish that they were in a position to be able to carry on regular conversations. So yeah, 50, it's a big milestone. What are your thoughts on this? You've been since day one. You've been a character in every single episode. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, I'm like the Tom Cheek of We Talked About This.
Yeah.
And those who don't know who Tom Cheek is, longtime Toronto Blue Jay broadcaster. I think we've talked about him before. Has 4,300 and something consecutive games that he broadcast for the Blue Jays.
So
unfortunately not with us anymore, but great broadcaster. And so yeah, I'm the Tom Cheek, except guess what? It's 50, not 4,000 and something. So maybe we'll see. Anyway, yeah, well, first of all, I think we do need to give some recognition to Simon. Simon and I did start this podcast together, and the podcast started, it was born out of just weekly calls I would have with him when I was in Japan, and we just got to talking and said, hey, why don't we record this and make this into something? And yeah, we did 18 episodes, and then the 19th episode I did with Ed, who's been on the show a couple times, and then you came along in episode 20. you I did a little bit of research going back to look at previous episodes. So this is actually your 21st episode that you've done. And the first episode that was released with your name on it was April 23rd. So you have a 1-year anniversary to celebrate here, Paul.
Okay, exactly 1 year. That's pretty cool. It doesn't seem like it's been a year. I know we took a little bit of a hiatus during the summertime, but we've been pretty steady throughout.
Yeah. So, and I want to say that you've been reliable. You've been involved in the topic ideas. You haven't just been a passenger on the bus. You've actually contributed to the content, and as well as, of course, being on the episodes. And I think that you've seen a lot of personal growth throughout the last 12 months in, just getting your feet and figuring your way out. I think you've always had a good voice. I think both of us, in fact, have developed a long way over the past, for me, it's been almost 2 years I've been at this, and you now a year. I think we've made a lot of strides. So congratulations on a year on the podcast and 20 episodes under your belt, and looking forward to when it's your 50th episode.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, keep in mind that I don't know if we have talked about this before, but you and I were former members of Toastmasters. And for those who may or may not be familiar with Toastmasters, it's like a network of individuals that meet together to improve public speaking abilities. And I hope that our Toastmasters experiences have aided us in our podcasting. And it's one of those things where it takes practice. You can't expect to be a great speaker overnight. And to your point, I feel that hopefully I have progressed quite well. When I listen to myself from the very first episode to where I am today, I think I have grown a lot. And I think we've grown a lot, for me personally, certainly from a confidence standpoint. Being able to think outside the box a little bit, being a little bit more creative with some of our topics and ideas. So it has been a fantastic experience, and I'm really appreciative and glad that you brought me along for the ride. So I don't know if we're going to be doing, 4,386 episodes or whatever it is. If that's our goal, we got our work cut out for us. We could be here till we're in our 80s.
All right, there's only one point of feedback that I need to share with you regarding something you have to change or do going forward, okay?
Okay. So go ahead.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when you say this podcast or next podcast or in a previous podcast we did, X. It's not a podcast. It's an episode.
Okay. All right. Then I will try to adhere to that. Okay.
A podcast is we talked about this, or the Joe Rogan Experience, or the Tim Ferriss Show. This is an episode within a podcast.
Because you said that, I'm going to start saying podcast just to piss you off. Okay. Episode. All right. I will keep that in mind. I don't want to get you all riled up.
All right. We have a neighbor update.
I was going to say, your neighbor updates are so entertaining. When you said you had a neighbor update.
Or to you?
To me, and I'm sure the listeners, it's, I can't wait.
That's the other thing. You're not allowed to say, this is going to be a really great episode, or this is a really fascinating topic. The listeners have to decide that.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, those are my 2 notes for you.
Okay. All right, I'll start thinking of stuff on you as well.
Oh, there won't be anything. All right, neighbor update. Yeah, I don't know where I should begin. Well, let's just say that a couple of weeks ago, I asked my wife if she had received any more feedback or messages from the neighbor. And she said, I have, but I haven't shared them with you.
Oh, no, I can see where this is going.
And I was a little bit disappointed in that. Not so much that my wife shouldn't be keeping secrets from me, but that this is material for the podcast. How can you possibly deny me these opportunities to share what's going on with the neighbor if I don't know what's going on with the neighbor? So what happened is my wife received a text about 3 weeks ago, which was the entire examination schedule for her month of starting. I've got it right here. So she says this was sent, I don't have the date, but it was before the first date on this schedule. So it was like late March. She says, hello, here are some important dates. Chemistry 423 test on March 27th from 9 to 12. Chemistry 422 midterm, 31st of March, 9 a.m. until the 1st of April. Wednesday to Thursday. Oh, so this would have been for 3 straight days. She has important presentations to do. Law 703 on March 24th from 2:30 to 4:30. March 29th, chemistry presentation from 2:30 to 4:30. April 6th, chemistry presentation. Now get this. So from 2:30 to 3:30, she writes, this prof is very intense as a person.
Okay, yeah.
And a number of other final examination dates, April 19th, 22nd, 27th, and she makes a particular point of mentioning that on April 27th, which is tomorrow, we're recording this on the 26th of April, so tomorrow, Law 703 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. She notes here, I am proctored during this one, and there cannot be any noise, else the system will flag me. Proctor Track is intense, and I guess Proctor Track is the name of this system. So there you have it. Oh, and it finishes with thank you once again.
Okay, so most of these dates that you've told me here, I'm looking at the calendar as you were providing these dates. Most of them are during the week, which is maybe better than weekends.
Yeah.
However, we should point out the fact that it is April and there is no longer any outdoor skating rink in your backyard. And likely...
it's been gone for 6 weeks now.
Yeah, since
Good
March.
point.
So this begs the question is, what the heck is she expecting to happen? Like having a big party? Like your kids are not young children to the point where they're making a racket outside. Like I'm baffled as to why all this is necessary if there's no rink in the backyard. So is this implying that your kids are not allowed to play outside in the backyard?
Well, the listener might be hearing this and thinking, well, maybe he's making a lot of noise and that's why she's constantly having to remind us of these things. But we're rarely in the backyard. And as those that live in Toronto know, we've been in this new lockdown now for since the last 2 weeks where you're not even allowed to visit people in their backyards if you're not from the same household. So we've had literally nothing going on in the backyard for the past month. Now, my wife, just to share with you, my wife responded to this message because I was curious to hear. I said, please tell me you didn't just say, okay, great. And she responded just saying, these are a lot of dates. Haven't checked all the dates against the calendar, but if it's during the week, it's no issue. We'll be working and the kids will be at school. During weekend mornings, we're usually inside, but as the weather gets nicer, we might want to be outside on a weekend afternoon. If you can let me know when you've got a test coming on a weekend, I'll be quiet. Or we'll try to be quiet if we're out. I mean, what did she expect? That we were going to put all these dates into our calendar and look at our schedule every day, and in addition to our own things that we're doing here in the house, we would then, of course, acknowledge that, and she has an exam from 9 till 3 today. Don't forget, everybody stay inside.
Yeah, I'm not sure what this neighbor expects of you. I'm getting the impression that she would frown upon you going outside in your backyard, and you should have the right to spend time in your backyard. So, okay, the kids are allowed to make noise by... it seems unusual or an unrealistic request that you have to walk on eggshells in your backyard. So
Right.
What would happen if you had to cut the grass or something like that? Or if you had to do some yard work? Is she expecting you that, no, you cannot cut your grass during these times? That is ridiculous.
That's correct, Paul. She is expecting
No, then this is ridiculous. I think the very first request, okay, I could understand that. The second one, I thought was over the top. This one is out to lunch, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. It's one thing to say, okay, I have an important date on April 27th. Okay, one date. Okay, fine. But she's given you a list of 6 or 7 dates here, and this is getting stupid. Like,
it's funny. I overheard her father in the backyard. He was out there with a leaf blower. This was a week ago. And, the guy's property is pretty small. There's absolutely no need for a leaf blower, in my opinion. But anyways, he was out there, and I heard him turn it off, and then I heard him talking, and I said, I'm just going to be another half hour, maybe? And then I never heard the leaf blower after that. So I guess that didn't satisfy her. Yeah. But, everyone's working from home. People have got distractions going on. Is she saying that if like a dog barks in the background, or a kid yelps from outside, or a lawnmower's buzzing in the background, she's going to fail her exam?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. No,
tomorrow's the big day. Yeah. Finals. I don't know. I'm debating. Maybe for the finals, maybe this is the one where there is a distraction. Yeah, is part of you, are you tempted to make a little bit of a disruption there, play some music, or fire up the lawnmower just to piss her off? Look, those that know me from my more mischievous high school days, or university days, or young adulthood, mid-20s, 30s days, would probably expect me to be a bit of a jerk here, but I don't know. I am tempted to go out and get one of those air horns and, at like, what is it? What's the time of this exam here? From 9 till 3. Come on, you're in an exam for...
And that's a long period of time. This isn't just like, can you be quiet for half an hour? This is 6 hours we're talking about.
There cannot be any noise, else the system will flag me. Proctor Track is intense. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do at 2:59 is I'm going to sound this air horn, and that'll signify that the exam is over.
So have you thought about approaching your neighbor and saying, just being honest here, and just telling her that I think this has gone too far? Especially with the summertime coming, because I don't know if she's going to be taking summer courses, but you don't want to come the nice weather and you start taking some vacation time and the kids are off school. You don't want to have to be, again, walking on eggshells saying, oh, you can't go out in the backyard because so-and-so is having their exam. This is getting stupid. I think you need to have that conversation and just say that I can't comply with this anymore. This is unrealistic expectations that you're placing on us. I think you need to have that conversation. I do. Pull off the Band-Aid and just do it.
It's hard to say, because what's really happened here? I think if we had made noise and she came over and said, yesterday I asked you kindly to be quiet, and you went ahead and had your kids outside, I think that would be a little different. I think then I would be more confrontational with this, or I would deal with it a little more head on. For now, I think I'm just going to operate business as usual. I'm not going to do anything differently tomorrow than I would normally do. Mm-hmm. And if I'm outside and I happen to make noise like that, I forgot about it because she's in her exam from 9 till 3, then so be it. And then if she comes and says something, that's when I'll say something.
Well, you know best. Yeah.
As a reminder to our listeners, we're always interested in hearing your feedback. Please send us an email at wetalkedabouttthis99@gmail.com or visit our website at www.wetalkedaboutthis.net. All our previous episodes are up there. There's some pictures of us. In fact, I think we still need a profile from you, Paul, so people want to know a little bit more about who you are. And we also have a Twitter channel, We Talked Podcast, if you want to follow us on Twitter. We don't have a lot of followers because we just don't. So please follow us on Twitter, make us look like we're relevant. And did I forget any other social media contact info, Paul?
I don't think so. But just some good old-fashioned word of mouth. And we'd very much appreciate it.
Talk about us, like us. We have a Facebook page, right? We Talked About This has a Facebook page. It's a private page, but if you send me a request, I'll certainly allow you to become a member. Feedback. We love feedback. We love getting letters. We had Andrew write us the last time, and we've used a couple of his ideas, and we plan to use a couple more. So if you want to hear one of your ideas on the show, send us an email. Reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point, in that we encourage people to provide us with ideas, topics. We want to make sure this is relevant and interesting to people. So if there's
it's relevant.
Oh yeah, but if there's a topic out there that people really want to listen to, that they would like us to hear our opinion on a certain topic, we'd love to hear that. We'd love to get that opportunity.
Absolutely. And the other thing, too, if you want to be a guest on the show, we may do that, too. We've had a few listeners come on the show, and a couple have become regular co-hosts or regular guests. So if you're good enough, we'll have you on. All right, let's move on to one of your topics. Kids' clothing. What impressions does it leave? Paul, why did you want to talk about this?
Well, this was a topic that is kind of tongue-in-cheek, and I'm sure that people will think I'm maybe overreacting a little bit on this, but just one of those things. I got to thinking that there's certain articles of clothing that, I guess for me, it kind of gives an impression of a kid being, well, I don't want to use the word asshole because that's a strong word, and we've talked about
we're not allowed to call kids assholes.
I know we've talked about this before. Remember many episodes ago, we had that topic: are kids born assholes? So I don't want to sort of dwell on that aspect of it, but certain articles of clothing sort of give the impression that kids could be, maybe jerks or bullies or something like that, or just gives you maybe a negative impression just because of the nature of what it is. And I've compiled a list here of some things that, for me personally, I would not want my son to wear. Wouldn't say that, but I would never buy these items of clothing for him. Obviously, he's at an age now where he has the right to say what he wants to wear and so forth. But for me personally, a couple of items that I jotted down. Bike helmets with the spikes on them. I don't know. That just bugs me.
You mean those? They're like soft spikes. Like
yeah. I don't like the looks of them. I don't know. They just
grind.
Just grind my gears. Something about the bike helmets with the soft spikes on them. Any kind of clothing that has like skulls or skeletons on them. Again, it's just maybe it's an image thing, and maybe I'm overthinking this too much. But I would okay, then I won't apologize. Okay. I just don't like them. There you go. Yeah,
you don't like skulls,
skeletons, anything that makes kids look like a gangsters.
Do they scare you?
No, but it feeds into a stereotype of just. The lazy, sloppy teenager with big baggy clothes and, big baggy hoodies and,
What age group are you talking about when you say kids who wear these clothes?
Well, it can mean a wide variety of ages. I guess the bike helmets. It kind of applies more for younger kids, but when you're dealing with young and I guess adolescents, young teenagers, maybe from the ages of 10 and up, as mentioned, skulls, skeletons, big baggy hoodies.
You sound like an old man.
I know, but it's just. Hey, you said don't apologize, right?
Okay, so
long trench coats, and I finish off with Ed Hardy clothing.
Yes. Okay. So when you mentioned Ed Hardy or this topic before, you told me about Ed Hardy. I had to look it up because I don't know anything about Ed Hardy. So he's a tattoo artist. Don Ed Hardy, an American tattoo artist born in Des Moines, Iowa, known for his tattoos, strong influence in the development of modern tattoo styles. He has an apparel and accessories brand. So let me just look at some of these Ed Hardy clothes that you're talking about here. Ed Hardy shirts. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they're a little aggressive. Big pictures of skulls. Yeah. I just saw when I mentioned the word skulls, you had a little shiver. It looked like you had a shiver go down your spine there. And there's some with big, like, tiger heads. And here's one that looks like an eagle. Oh, it's an eagle. It's with big, scary wings. And a really intimidating looking guy wearing it. And it says, "Death before dishonor." Huh. So these types of clothes, you don't like seeing them on kids. What about adults?
Even adults, I don't know. For me, it just kind of feeds into like the punk kind of image. With and maybe again, I'm overthinking this, and I don't want to sound too old beyond my years, but when teenagers sort of feed into that stereotype. And I place a lot of value on how one presents themselves. And I know things are different with COVID. People like to wear PJs all the time. And hey, you do whatever you want in the comfort of your own home. But, and this could be a topic for another day, but people that wear PJs out and about, the people of Walmart, that type of thing. I don't know.
When you mentioned the clothing, I did think about this a little bit, and I have to admit the plaid pajama look.
Yeah, I hate that as well. Like, hey, in the comfort of your own home, hey, whatever. But I don't want to see you at a Walmart wearing your PJs. Come on, like put some proper pants on.
The plaid pajamas do irritate me a little bit. We do sound very judgy here, by the way, but I also do find that kids who wear these types of clothes, like the pajamas and the hoodies, and they just look generally unkempt, just project an image of laziness.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give a pass for the coronavirus to a certain degree. That this past year past year and a half almost now, has been a little different. But I'm hoping that once this passes, we can get back to dressing a little bit more nicely, not quite getting away with the whole hoodie and pajama bottoms thing every day. Okay, well, we touched on a little bit of coronavirus stuff in that last topic, so why don't we just quickly talk about vaccines, our vaccine situation. Okay. So I got my vaccine last week, which I'm very happy about. It was the AstraZeneca vaccine. And on Wednesday of last week, I got my shot late afternoon. Super easy, by the way, to book it. For me it was. Phoned the local pharmacy down the street, booked it almost too easily, to be honest. It came almost too easily because I was hearing a lot of people were having issues getting appointments and that they were getting canceled. But last Wednesday, I got the shot. About 24 hours after, I started to feel really run down and fatigued, and I got a headache, and I just felt crappy, and I had night dreams, fever dreams. You ever had those, fever dreams?
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I do know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. All I could think about was the fact I was trying to sleep. And, you know, that when you feel that way, you're kind of screwed. You have to take your mind off it. But anyway, I made it back to normal now, but I'm really happy I got dose 1 of the vaccine. So I'm not fully inoculated until the second dose, which is in August. It'll be sometime in August, but dose 1 done. Now, what about you? What's your situation with your vaccine?
Well, I have an appointment scheduled for Wednesday morning to get my vaccine at
and where are you going?
At the local pharmacy near my house. I was able to book online. Actually, my wife was able to book the appointment for me, and quite easily as well. I think it all comes down to just the timing, because the day in which we booked was the very first day they announced that the vaccines were going to be eligible for people 40 and above. So we jumped on that bandwagon right away, made an appointment just to get something. But having said that, I think because there's been so much demand for it, and because obviously word is spreading and people are very eager to get the vaccines, I know that it is becoming increasingly hard to get appointments. My brother had mentioned to me that he was trying to get an appointment for himself and he wasn't able to find anything online. So hopefully his opportunity comes soon. But yeah, I'm glad I do have an appointment scheduled. I too will be getting the AstraZeneca vaccine. I know there's been some differing opinions on that, but I certainly do feel
it's had a bit of a rough ride. Europe banned it in a few countries, but
yeah, I think the benefits outweigh any negatives that may come about. The stats certainly prove that it is by far more beneficial to get that vaccine rather than, risk the chances of getting very severely ill due to COVID. I think that, well, it goes without saying that the more people get vaccinated, I think the sooner we can put this behind us. And it is nice to see that, certainly here in Canada, there seems to be overwhelming enthusiastic support for getting the vaccines. You're not having to push people to do it. And it's nice to see that the vaccine rollout, it took a long time. Canada compared to the US has had a bit of a rocky rollout with the vaccines. We got off to a slow start, but it seems like the last month or so that things have really picked up. So I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that maybe we'll have a normal summer or normal-ish summer after all.
I sure hope so.
But for those of you who have not got their vaccines, we certainly encourage you to go out and get one, and hopefully the process allows you to get one soon.
Childhood dreams. Okay, so this one came to me as I was thinking about what did I want to be when I grew up? What did I want to be when I grow up?
Have you grown up?
No. Yeah. And, well, that'll lead me to another topic. But what did I want to be when I grew up? It feels weird saying that. Does that make sense? What did I want to be when I grew up? Does that sound grammatically wrong to you?
A little bit, yeah, because you're used to saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? But now that you have grown up, well, at least that's debatable.
I'm trying to move it into the past tense, but maybe it's fine, and I'm an English major, so maybe I'm not being overly analytical about it. But I wanted to share what I wanted to be when I grew up, which was the one. One thing I wanted to. I have a few things, but I'm going to share one thing, and that was that I had always dreamed of being the next Peter Jennings. And for listeners who are too young to know, Peter Jennings was one of the three big anchormen he was ABC News, I believe. And him, Dan Rather, and Tom Brokaw were the three big news anchors of the day from like the early 80s into the 90s. And I always loved Peter Jennings because he was Canadian, and he just had a great voice. I always respected his voice. So the area that I always wanted to be a broadcaster. And I also wanted to be a news broadcaster, and I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. And so some of the people we used to listen to who were the voices for the Blue Jays, like Tom Cheek, Jerry Howarth, even Don Chevrier, who used to do Blue Jay TV games years ago. I liked him. I loved his voice. I thought he had a great voice. More recently, Dan Schulman, a big fan of Dan Schulman. I love his voice. And so that was my dream. And I guess one thing I wanted to say was that had I achieved that, going back to our topic from the other day where we were saying, what if, about overzealous parents, like Tiger Woods' dad wanted him to be a golfer, and obviously he recognized some amount of talent in Tiger and pushed it hard. Now, my parents were never a fan of this idea for me to go into journalism or broadcasting. They totally thought it was a bad idea because they said it's too hard to succeed in it. They told me that only 1 in a million get to be Peter Jennings, or 1 in 200 million, or whatever, and they steered me heavily toward pursuing that as a career. And I wonder sometimes, what if I had the Tiger Woods of broadcasting as a dad? Like, what would have happened? What if they had said, you're going to be a broadcaster, and put all their effort and focus into me being the next great one of broadcasting? Would I be a broadcaster today?
Yeah, that's a great point, because we often look at it only from a sports standpoint. But what about other careers? And
sports, music, sure.
Yeah, or kids that are expected to inherit the family business, for example. There's a lot of movies have been made about that, where I guess people push back against their predetermined destiny, if that's something that they didn't necessarily want to do. But in your case, though, even though your parents did not encourage you to go into broadcasting, I think if you had a true passion for it, I think you probably would have found a way to eventually go down that road anyway. If that was something that really piqued your interest and drew you into that world, do you think that you would have found a way to do it, even if your parents weren't overly supportive of that idea?
See, this is one of the challenges with our education system, is that you kind of have to make a decision about your career at a very young age.
Yeah, I agreed.
What you're going to pursue in university, for instance, I mean, you're picking your classes or your courses in your first year. What are you, 18 or 19? And it feels like when you're doing that, you're already kind of making a commitment to what it is you're going to do. I mean, I did a liberal arts program. I did English as my liberal arts program. But I really wanted to go to broadcasting school, and my parents were not at all in favor of it. Ryerson University has a very big program, and I feel like I do look back on it and I have some feelings of regret. However, so in answer to your question, no, I don't think so. I didn't push hard enough. I think I was pretty strongly committed to wanting to do that, but they also held the purse strings when it came to my education. So if I had said I wanted to go to Ryerson for journalism, I don't think they would have supported it. I don't think. But it's a good point. Would I have fought harder if I really, really believed in it? Maybe. I'm using this now, this podcast that we're doing at this very moment is my chance to live a bit of that dream. So if I had gone into broadcasting, then I wouldn't have had the career I had in what I do now. I wouldn't have gone to Japan, perhaps. I met my wife through work, so I wouldn't have been married probably to my wife. I wouldn't have the kids I have if I had pursued this. Who knows? Mm-hmm. It's like anything. You don't really know where you would have ended up. Maybe I would have been killed in Beirut or doing some sort of war correspondence in Bosnia. We don't know, right? But it is something that always leaves me wondering.
Exactly. It's one of those, you're right. You always wonder what could have been. And there's so many different aspects of journalism. I'm sure a lot of journalism may not be a very glamorous job. Not everyone is going to be a Peter Jennings. And the job that you would have obtained in journalism, who knows, you may not have been happy in that job.
Good point.
But your other point to the fact that, yes, our education system, I agree, is very flawed, because at the age of 18, you're right, you're expected to have an idea as to what you want to do with your life. And that's unfair. And most people spend their entire adult lives not really knowing exactly what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. People's interest changes over time. As you mature, as you gain more knowledge. For me personally, the job that I always thought that I was going to do was actually to be a lawyer. As a teenager, I was always fascinated by law. Any shows that had anything to do with lawyers or courtroom dramas. I love watching Law and Order. I love watching Matlock.
Matlock.
Yeah.
How did I know you were going to say Matlock?
Yeah. And I'm dating myself on that one. But yeah, I enjoyed watching those shows, and it kind of fueled my interest in law. In high school, I did a co-op at a law office, and I seemed to enjoy it. So when I went to university, the courses that I took initially were with the intent that I was going to become a lawyer. But I think throughout my time in university, my interest changed.
But your parents supported this, though, right?
They did, but they weren't overly. They didn't push me into it. I think they took the approach where you do what you want to do. But there was nothing where it's like, oh, you have to be a lawyer, or we expect you to be a lawyer, or anything like that. There's nothing of that nature. My parents, I think they just simply wanted me to get an education and get a good job when I left school. As simple as that.
What if it had been a career that was maybe, a lot of kids' parents want them to be doctors, lawyers. You hear lawyers is commonly a job that a lot of parents hope their kids will do. I think less so these days than maybe 25 years ago, but because lawyers tend to have a bad reputation in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of lawyers out there. Mm-hmm. But what if it had been something a little bit more, like a journalist, a writer? Would you think they would have still been, get the education, that's cool, whatever you want to do? Or do you think because you were saying you want to be a lawyer, it gave you a little bit of a, like they're not going to push back on that necessarily?
Yeah, I think getting the education was important. I think for them, as long as you're in a position to succeed, as long as you're in a position to have a good job. So, for example, my brother, he didn't go to university, but he went straight into the police force. And for him, he was, I guess, lucky at a young age, I think before the age of 20, that he was able to secure a full-time, well-paying job, something that sort of set him up for his career. And I think that's kind of what my parents wanted in me, was to have an opportunity to have a good career and a good stable living. If I had said I want to be an actor or something like that, I don't know. I think their attitude may have been a little bit different, because there are certain professions that are known to take a while before you get established. The image of the starving actor. I think maybe they may not have been as supportive on something like that.
I think my parents saw that too. Perhaps when I said I wanted to be an anchor man, Peter Jennings, whatever, they may have seen a little bit of that too. That this is a long road. I as you were talking there, or before we went into your subject, what was the job exactly that I was hoping to get? Was I looking to make a career in journalism that would have involved starting at probably a small newspaper establishment, or running coffees in a TV studio? and then eventually making my way up the ranks and becoming, a correspondent, and then eventually getting the big job in New York City. Like, what was the job I thought I was actually going to go to school for? Like, what was the dream? I think the dream was the handsomely dressed, handsome-looking Peter Jennings. Looks cool, had the suit and tie, great voice, really glamorous looking. Was that what I wanted to be? Like, when you want to be an actor, a lot of people want to be the next Brad Pitt or the next Meryl Streep. They're not thinking, I'm going to be the guy. They're not going to be Diner 3 in the restaurant scene of Pulp Fiction, right? They want to be Samuel L. Jackson or John Travolta.
I think we could make this an episode topic in itself. Certain careers that have this image of being very glamorous. But for example, I believe it was a documentary I was watching a while back where this woman, her dream was to be a singer. And she was able to make it as a backup singer. And I believe that she has been, fortunate enough to be able to backup singer for some pretty large acts, like Rolling Stones, for example.
Is that 20 Feet from Stardom?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it was
great.
Yeah, it was a really interesting documentary that sort of made you realize that a lot of these jobs, although they look glamorous, they really aren't. In that this woman has had a very up and down career where you're not getting a steady paycheck, where you're having to sort of pick up and travel at a moment's notice to get a last minute gig. It's a very unglamorous job. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they make these dreams for themselves, the fact that only a very select few achieve the glamour and the fame. But for the majority of the people, it's a really tough situation. And, for probably the majority of your career, unless you're a very fortunate person that gets that big break, the majority of people do not have a steady paycheck throughout most of their lives, and they must do it just for pure love of what they do. So I commend people that stick to their dreams and are committed to their craft because they play an important role. And that word craft is very important because it actually reminds me of something I said to myself when I was in university. And while I wasn't in journalism school, I did do a lot of acting in theater in school and outside of school. And one of the things I remember saying, I did a production of A Christmas Carol in university, and that was a tough show. I played Scrooge, and I was in every single rehearsal. I had a lot of lines. I was involved in every aspect of the show. And I remember I had a huge fight with the director. And I remember taking a break and going into the dressing room and staring in the mirror and thinking, fuck, this is acting. This is being could I do this for a living, this kind of stuff? And I came to the conclusion from that and just from overall assessment that I was not willing to starve for my craft. Yeah, that's a great point. The fact that you really have to be passionate and have to truly love what you do. And you have to accept the fact that you may never get that steady paycheck. And, your life could be very unstable. But if you love your job that much, and I guess you have to ask yourself, what job would you be willing to take if you could have any job in the world, and if you could pick anything, what would you be willing to do to not have a steady paycheck? Play baseball? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Major League Baseball player was certainly one of my things. Yeah. But no, it's a good one. I think we should revisit this in some other form. I was thinking for another episode, maybe if we bring on Mike or Ed or some of the other guys that or girls that have been on the show, we can run the rounds with everybody and go through this. There's a lot to digest and take out of this. I wanted to share it. And
Yeah, and it's I think that the takeaway here is that you're going to change your mind many times throughout your life, and it's very rare when people can truly say, I love my job. I hope that most people can say that I like my job and I enjoy what I'm doing. Is what we do. Well, both of us work in the insurance industry. I can say that working in insurance was not a childhood dream of mine. Although I do like my job, it's not my dream.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah,
that's another topic.
It creates some interesting questions for sure.
This episode is brought to you by Pace Painting. Pace Painting, serving all your painting needs, whether commercial or residential. Reach Pace Painting at paintwithpace@gmail.com or via their Facebook page, Pace Painting Inc. Or call Peter at 289-356-7744. Paint with Pace. 30-day challenges. Oh, I feel like...
That sigh pretty much says it all, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've let down everybody so much around this. You know, I tried this with Teresa, the No Complaint Challenge, and never really followed it through. And now we have our current 30-day challenge, which sadly enough, and probably a thing we should think about in the future, is I don't even remember what day I started this challenge. I might be on day 47 of this challenge that I'm sort of following, but I think in a nutshell, my not eating after 8, I've probably not eaten after 8, maybe out of, let's say it was 30 days, probably for 25 of those days. So I'm happy about it, but I also feel like I don't think that's the right type of challenge to talk about on this show. I think we need to have something with tangible numbers, you know, like a physical exercise, like 100 push-ups a day, 100 sit-ups a day, or burpees, or whatever it is. We need numbers that we can stick to and be able to have real metrics around it. I think our challenges were too loose, so I'm really disappointed. And I don't mean to be a downer about it, but I just feel like I let people down, Paul.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in you too there, Clark. No, just kidding. No, you're right. They need to be more tangible. I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit as well. The whole thing about the no snacking after 8 o'clock. I was actually doing pretty good there for a while. So I think I proved to myself that yes, I am capable of doing it. I just have to stick with it more, have a little bit more accountability. I did improve in that there was far less snacking after 8 p.m. However, it did occur nonetheless. And
like when you looked at the clock and saw it was 8 o'clock or 10 to 8, were you thinking, oh, yeah, or it was 8:20, you said, oh, can't eat now?
Yeah, for a while I was doing that, but...
Were you ever stuffing your face at 7:55 just to get it all in before 8 o'clock?
No, I don't think I was going to those extremes.
I did it a couple times. Yeah. Extra bowl of ice cream because it was 7:57. Yeah. But your other one was the sugar one. That to me, admittedly, I saw that one as failing from the beginning.
I'm not going to say it was a complete failure because making yourself aware of it made you realize that...
But that's not a 30-day challenge.
No.
So you've learned from it.
Yeah.
But the audience...
Okay, so...
I think the audience wants to hear, oh my God, day 27 of no sugar. Holy shit.
My take on it is that, okay, I failed the 30-day challenge. Guilty as charged. But my view on this in the sense that by making myself aware of this... I was able to cut down on my late night snacking. I was able to cut down on my sugar consumption. But eventually one of these things, it does kind of creep back in there, especially around Easter time when, you know, my son has a big basket of chocolates just sitting there on the kitchen counter. And we're all guilty of...
a few Easter bunnies went down for the count.
Yeah, especially those little mini eggs. I'll just have 2 of those. Yeah, well, those add up after a while.
Maybe 20.
Yeah. So, okay, yes, the 30-day challenge was not as successful as we had hoped. But there is hope. I think for me, I should...
All right, we need to come up with something.
Yes, it needs to be tangible.
We don't need to do it in this it doesn't need to be in this episode, but it needs to be clear. And I think it needs to be something that people are going to hear us say it and be, wow, okay, that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
You know, I think it needs to be to that level. We need to our listeners to hear us achieve something and go through something, so that they can either do it along with us or live vicariously through us.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have to brainstorm some ideas here, but we'll definitely.
Well, that's on our homework list.
Yeah. We'll this is to be continued, because you're right. Let's.
We'll take suggestions. I know our new listener Andrew has mentioned 100 burpees a day for 30 days.
Yeah.
I hate burpees. God.
Well, hey,
that made me think. I think it needs to be a physical thing, like 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, something like that.
If somebody wants to challenge me to not eat broccoli or Brussels sprouts for 30 days, I'd be more than willing to do that. But yes, I think that is kind of a cool idea. Maybe like push-ups or something like that. Well, we'll brainstorm.
We'll come back.
We're going
to come back
to be continued. Yes, for sure.
Weird news, Paul. It's coming out of Japan again. I apologize for all of the Japanese listeners or anyone that's just getting tired of hearing Japanese stories, but I just couldn't pass this story up. So headline, this comes from Japan Today. It's an English publication in Japan, mostly read by English speakers or expats in Japan. And the headline is, and this is in the crime section of the Japan Today, it's man arrested in Kobe after stuffing fried chicken into ex-girlfriend's mailbox.
Okay, that sounds interesting.
Oftentimes, when a couple breaks up, it's best for both parties to just move on with their lives as civilly as possible. However, some people can't let go without a final message of undying love, indignant anger, or in the case of one man, delicious fried food. So this guy, Kengo Harada, he's 29 years old. He's a middle school teacher from Osaka. Things didn't work out, but his lingering emotions led him to the neighborhood where his ex, a 26-year-old woman, she lives in Kobe. And so instead of standing outside her window with a boombox over his head or laying a single rose outside her doorstep, this gentleman felt that the best course of action would be to stuff her apartment's mailbox with karage, which is a Japanese-styled fried chicken.
I know you mentioned on a previous episode that Kentucky Fried Chicken was quite popular in Japan. I was just wondering, could it be KFC? A bucket of KFC in her mailbox?
No, this is a more specialized Japanese-style fried chicken. As he was stuffing this into the mailbox, a police officer, spotted the guy. So he's done this, and the fact that he's hanging out in the parking lot of his ex's apartment complex in the late night, early morning hours of Sunday, Monday, a police officer spotted him. Security had apparently been beefed up following a report from the woman that someone, probably her ex-boyfriend, had vandalized her car in late March. So he was actually arrested previously on suspicion of anti-stalking laws, has since admitted to the mailbox vandalism. Now, his defense here, he says he's maintaining that he wasn't stalking his ex, and he just happened to be in the neighborhood, though considering it's about a 45-minute drive from where he lives to Kobe, that seems unlikely. So I guess this could happen anywhere.
Yeah, my mailbox is kind of small. I don't think anyone's going to be shoving chicken in there.
All right. Maybe that wasn't so weird. Do you think that was a weird news story?
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, you don't hear about chicken getting stuffed in a mailbox. I'm not sure what he was hoping to accomplish out of that. What kind of message that fried chicken in a mailbox would provide, but I don't know. Maybe it's just general mischief.
Yeah, I guess people that are in these situations, it's emotional. Oh,
yeah, it's It's emotional, but it's a bucket of chicken can't cure that, right?
Well, episode 50 is behind us.
Yeah, on to the next 50, right?
On to the next 50. We put as much effort into 50 as we did 46, or we will into 59 or 81. But it's been a great ride. Looking forward to continuing this ride and continuing our time on the podcast, Paul. And we'll get you to your own new milestones as we go along here. And yeah. Next time I talk to you, you're gonna be partially vaccinated. So maybe you'll we'll see how that affects your performance.
Yeah, I'll provide an update on that because I think a lot of people are very interested to hear stories about what other people are experiencing with the vaccines, whether or not some people have side effects, others do not. So we'll keep you updated.
All right. Well, you have a good week.
Thanks.
And we will connect again.
Absolutely.